He found an alien who lost everything and gave her a new body and hope. The scent of burnt steel and alien incense filled the air as Jax Wilder stepped into Lord Varkesh's mansion. His boots echoed across the metallic floor, the sound swallowed by a hall lined with statues, mirrors, and glittering glass. Every corner shimmered with light that seemed too perfect, too artificial, like the owner himself. Jax's old leather jacket creaked as he walked, a sharp contrast to the polished elegance around him. He hated places like this. They made him feel small, like a piece of dirt tracked in from the scrapyards of Mars. But he wasn't here to admire the decor. He was here because Lord Varkesh was rich, dangerous, and in need of an engineer who could build the impossible. Ah, the famous human mechanic, came a voice like cold honey. Varkesh stood at the far end of the hall, tall, scaled, and glowing faintly blue beneath the chandeliers. His eyes, slit and golden, studied Jax with a mix of curiosity and contempt. "Welcome to my collection, Mr. Wilder. I hear you fix what others throw away." Jax gave a half smile. "If it's broken, I can fix it. Metal, circuits, even half-dead engines, same principle." The alien's laughter was deep and unpleasant. "You humans are bold. That's why I like you." He gestured grandly. "Before business, a tour. You'll appreciate my treasures." Jax wanted to say no, but money talked louder than manners. He followed as Varkesh led him through room after room. Frozen relics from forgotten worlds. Weapons older than Earth's nations. A wall of crystals that hummed faintly, each containing something, someone, trapped inside. Every step made Jax's stomach tighten. Finally, they stopped before a massive steel door guarded by two silent drones. Varkesh placed his clawed hand against a panel. The door hissed open. "My greatest prize," the alien whispered. Inside, the light dimmed to a soft blue glow. At the center of the room stood a cylinder of liquid, suspended in cables and humming machinery. The fluid shimmered like a dream, casting soft ripples of light across the floor. And within that liquid, Jax froze. It was a woman's head. Violet skin, silver-white hair floating like smoke, eyes closed, face serene. For a moment, Jax thought she was dead, until her eyelashes fluttered. The faintest breath escaped her lips. Varkesh's voice cut through the silence. "A liminal princess, rarest of her kind. A tragic accident left her broken, but I preserved what mattered most." Jax felt his throat tighten. "She's alive." "Oh yes," Varkesh said, almost proudly. "Their neural architecture is fascinating. So long as the brain remains intact, consciousness survives indefinitely. She hears, sees, even speaks, though I keep her silent unless I'm in the mood for conversation." Jax stared, horrified. "You're keeping her like this?" Varkesh smiled. "She is my masterpiece. My trophy. My reminder that even the perfect can be contained." Then, with a flick of his claw, the tank's speakers crackled. A soft, melodic voice filled the room. "Hello, human." Jax turned toward the sound. Her eyes were open now, bright, sharp, aware. They locked on his, and something inside him twisted. There was fear in those eyes, but also hope. Varkesh chuckled. "She grows restless, but she'll learn. They all do." Jax couldn't speak. His hands clenched into fists. He had seen cruelty in many forms across the stars, but this was worse. This was deliberate. When Varkesh finally turned away, still talking about contracts and rewards, Jax looked back one last time. The princess's gaze met his. No words, just that silent, pleading look through the glass. And in that moment, Jax made a decision that would change everything. He smiled politely, shook the alien's hand, and left the chamber like nothing was wrong. But his heart was pounding. Because as the heavy doors closed behind him, one thought burned in his mind. He was coming back for her. The mansion slept under the violet light of two alien moons. Silent drones hovered in slow patrols outside the windows, their lights sweeping across the metallic gardens. Inside, Jax Wilder crouched in the shadow of a towering statue, heart pounding like a war drum. He had waited for this moment all night. Every guard route, every security pulse, every timing cycle, memorized. His stolen access chip blinked faint green against his glove. He whispered to himself, "All right, princess. Time to go home." The doors recognized him instantly, the benefit of cloning Varkesh's access during dinner. A quiet hiss, and the heavy panel slid open. Jax slipped through like a ghost, boots barely whispering on the polished floor. The trophy room was colder than he remembered. The air felt thick, heavy with the hum of machines and the faint scent of antiseptic fluid. And there she was, the liminal princess, floating in her glass cage. The same silver hair, drifting like starlight. Her eyes were closed, but the moment Jax stepped closer, they opened. "You came back," her voice whispered through the speaker. Jax smiled faintly. "Told you I fixed things." She blinked slowly. "Why? You don't even know my name." "Because no one deserves to be a decoration." He placed a hand on the glass. "And because I think I can help you." Her eyes softened, something like disbelief flickering within them. "Help me." Jax began tapping on the control panel. "I'm an engineer, biomech specialist. You've still got brain activity, sensory mapping intact. I can give you mobility again, a body." For a long moment, she just stared at him, silent. Then, softly, she said, "My name is Lyra." "Nice to meet you, Lyra," Jax murmured. "Now let's get you out of here." He hacked through the security code faster than he expected. Varkesh's systems were sophisticated, but predictable. A few rerouted commands, a power loop, and the tank's clamps hissed free. Fluid gurgled as the life support lines disengaged, the sound echoing in the chamber like a heartbeat fading away. Jax disconnected the tank's base from the wall and lifted it onto a grav sled he'd hidden earlier. Lyra's voice trembled through the speaker. "He'll hunt you for this." "Let him," Jax said, eyes burning with quiet defiance. "Humans don't scare easy." As he pushed the sled through the hall, the mansion seemed to come alive, motion sensors flaring, alarms flickering to red. A voice boomed through the corridor. "Unauthorized access detected. Intruder in the preservation wing." "Guess the welcome party's early," Jax muttered. He sprinted down the corridor, Lyra's tank gliding beside him. Drones rounded the corner, sleek, black, and armed. He ducked behind a pillar as plasma shots scorched the wall beside him. "Jax!" Lyra shouted. "Working on it." He pulled a small EMP puck from his belt, flicked the timer, and tossed it down the hall. It detonated with a sharp crack, a burst of blue light swallowing the drones in static. They dropped instantly. The path cleared. He ran. A final security gate blocked the hangar. No time for finesse. Jax drew his pulse cutter, sliced through the control lock, and slammed his hand against the override. The gate shrieked open just wide enough for the sled to pass. Inside, his ship, the Rust Dancer, waited like an old friend. A patchwork of welded panels and scavenged tech, ugly but loyal. "Hold on," Jax said, strapping the tank in beside the cockpit. "It's gonna be rough." Lyra's voice softened through the static. "I trust you." The engines roared to life. Plasma flames lit the hangar as the ship lifted. Outside, defense cannons turned toward them, but Jax was faster. He punched the thrusters, ripping through the shield gate in a burst of fire. The Rust Dancer streaked into the night, leaving Varkesh's estate shrinking behind like a dying star. In the cockpit, silence hung heavy for a moment, just the hum of the engines and the soft breath of recycled air. "Was that freedom?" Lyra asked. Jax chuckled tiredly. "Not yet, but it's a start." Through the viewport, the stars spread wide and endless, cold and bright and full of danger. Jax leaned back, staring into that infinite black, and for the first time in a long while, he felt alive. Lyra's voice broke the quiet again, softer this time. "You risked everything for me." "What?" Jax smiled without looking away from the stars. "Because I'm human," he said simply. "And that's what we do." As the ship vanished into the void, the silent mansion behind them began to stir, Varkesh waking, systems rebooting, eyes opening in fury. The hunt had begun. The Rust Dancer dropped out of warp with a shudder that rattled its old bolts. Ahead floated Ringport Theta, a tangled maze of metal, rust, and stolen light. Once a mining hub, now a drifting city where laws went to die. "Looks cozy," Jax muttered as the ship eased toward the docks. "Your definition of cozy concerns me," Lyra replied from the containment tank beside him. Her tone was dry, but her eyes glowed faintly with curiosity. On the surface, Ringport looked like a junk pile barely holding together. But Jax knew better. Down in its hollow guts, he could find anything: spare parts, fuel, food, even friends who didn't ask questions. The docking clamps bit hard as they landed. Alarms crackled briefly, then silence. Jax exhaled. Welcome to the edge of nowhere. He grabbed his toolkit and unfastened Lyra's tank from the mount, attaching a small portable grav drive to float it alongside him. Try not to talk too much in public. The fewer people who notice you can speak, the better. I can be quiet, Lyra promised. Then, after a pause, added, when necessary. Jax smirked. That's comforting. They entered the station, a world of flickering neon, oily air, and alien chatter. Vendors sold everything from engine cores to illegal memories. Jax kept his hood up, eyes scanning for danger. Even here, Varkesh's reach could stretch far. He found what he needed 3 decks down, a dusty storage unit with broken locks and a single flickering bulb. The walls were cracked, the power unreliable, but it was private. Home enough. Not exactly royal chambers, Jax said, dropping his bag. Better than a glass prison, Lyra replied quietly. That hit harder than she knew. He set her tank on a reinforced table, connecting it to a backup power cell. The blue liquid shimmered gently as life support stabilized. Okay, Jax said, rubbing his hands together. If we're staying off the grid, we do this smart. I'll need scrap metal, servo cores, neuromesh. Speak slower, Lyra interrupted with a small smile. You forget, not everyone thinks in circuits. He grinned. Right. Translation, I'm going to build you a body. Her expression changed. Wonder, disbelief, fear. You mean? I'll walk again. Walk, move, punch someone if you want, Jax said. Might not be pretty at first, but it'll be yours. For the first time since he'd met her, Lyra smiled. Not the polite, distant kind of royalty, but real and bright. Then I suppose I'll trust you with my future, human. Hours turned to days. Jax scavenged what he could, limb actuators from old worker bots, synthetic muscles from black market vendors, and a neural interface designed for cargo drones. Piece by piece, a rough humanoid frame began to take shape on the workbench. During breaks, they talked. Lyra told him about liminal worlds, where oceans glowed under 3 suns and people communicated through light. She spoke of music that could bend the wind and temples made of crystal veins. Jax told her about Earth, dirty streets, sunsets over rusted towers, and rain that smelled of freedom. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they fell quiet. But slowly, something human, something real, grew between them. Then came the broadcast. Every screen in the market flared red. Varkesh's scaled face filled the airwaves. To all bounty crews, recover my stolen property and the human thief. 10 million credits for the pair, alive or not. Jax froze mid-step, his pulse hammering. Around him, aliens turned their heads, eyes narrowing. Lyra's voice came softly through his earpiece. He's calling for hunters. Yeah, Jax whispered. And every merc on this station just heard it. He raced back to the workshop, slamming the door behind him. Lyra's tank glowed faintly in the dim light. We need to move faster, he said, pulling out tools with trembling hands. We finished the prototype now. Jax, you haven't slept in 2 days. Sleep when we're not targets. She studied him for a moment. You humans burn bright, she said softly, even when it kills you. He paused, meeting her gaze. Better than fading out. Outside, muffled footsteps echoed through the hallways, mercenaries already searching. Inside, sparks flew from the workbench as Jax welded the final joint of the metallic frame. Sweat dripped into his eyes, but he didn't stop. Lyra watched him, her voice barely above a whisper. Why do you care so much, Jax Wilder? He looked up, his face illuminated by the glow of the plasma torch. Because you looked at me like a person, he said simply. Not like a machine. The lights flickered once, twice. Somewhere outside, a door slammed. Jax powered up the half-built frame. Blue circuits pulsed faintly through its limbs. You're getting out of that tank soon, Lyra, he promised. No matter what it costs. She smiled again, and for the first time, the fear in her eyes turned into something else, hope. And beyond the workshop's steel walls, the hunt had begun. The station's night cycle had begun, lights dimmed to violet haze, shadows stretching long across the metal corridors. Deep inside a forgotten maintenance sector, Jax Wilder's workshop buzzed with the quiet rhythm of creation. Sparks flew as he welded the final panel onto the tall, humanoid frame lying on the table. It wasn't beautiful, not yet, more angles than grace, made of mismatched alloys scavenged from junkyards and decommissioned combat drones. But it was strong. It was alive in its own strange way. Beside it, Lyra's containment tank pulsed softly. The blue light within shimmered like a heartbeat. "How does it look?" she asked, voice filtered through static. Jax grinned through the haze of smoke. "Like trouble. My kind of art." He stepped back to admire his work. The body was sleek but unfinished, sinew cables instead of muscles, titanium ribs beneath thin synth skin, and a neural lattice glowing faintly where the spine would be. "It's not perfect," Jax said, rubbing the back of his neck. "But it'll move. You'll have arms, legs, autonomy." Lyra's eyes softened. "That's more than I've had in years." Outside, thunder rolled, the distant echo of docking clamps locking and ships arriving. The sound made Jax's shoulders tense. The bounty had spread fast. Mercenaries were flooding Ringport Theta like vultures drawn to blood. He ignored the fear clawing at his chest and turned to Lyra's console. "All right, I need to link your neural core to the frame's interface. It'll feel strange." "I've lived in a glass tomb," Lyra replied calmly. "Strange sounds like freedom." Jax hesitated for a moment, his fingers resting on the transfer controls. Then, with a deep breath, he began. The workshop filled with the hum of energy. The fluid in Lyra's tank began to drain, cables slithering down like veins reconnecting to a beating heart. Jax worked quickly, guiding the connectors to the metallic body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered. The new frame twitched, fingers clenching once, then again. The neural circuits glowed brighter. Lyra's voice came through, softer, breathless. "I can feel the current. Stay with me," Jax murmured, adjusting stabilizers. "Your neural signals are syncing. Just breathe. Or, well, you know what I mean." A weak laugh escaped her new vocal modulator. "Breathing optional." "Noted." The containment shell cracked open. Jax gently lifted her head, delicate, weightless, and set it into the open collar joint of the frame. The connection hissed as circuits fused to living tissue. Then her eyes shot open. The metallic body jerked upright, balance uncertain. Her hands flexed, her feet scraped against the floor. "Slow," Jax warned, moving closer. "Your sensors need calibration." The door behind him exploded inward. Jax spun just in time to see 3 bounty hunters burst through the smoke. One was a towering crawling brute, skin like armor. Another, a sleek insectoid with mirrored eyes. The third, a human merc with cybernetic implants, smiled coldly. "Found you, engineer," the merc hissed. "The Baron wants his toys back." Jax raised his pulse pistol. "He'll have to build new ones." The crawlin roared, firing first. Plasma scorched the wall, narrowly missing Jax's head. He ducked behind a workbench, returning fire. The air filled with the shriek of blasters and the acrid scent of burnt ozone. Lyra struggled to move, each step uncertain, like learning to walk all over again. But her voice stayed steady. "Jax, left side." He spun, firing blind. A lucky hit dropped the insectoid, its mirrored shell cracking. The crawlin advanced. Massive, laughing. Then, metal groaned. Lyra's hand shot out, gripping a heavy wrench from the table. Her movements were awkward, jerky, but powerful. She swung it with surprising speed, slamming it into the crawlin's jaw. The alien staggered, stunned. "I am not property," she said coldly, her new voice resonating through the room. The merc's cybernetic arm whirred as he lunged toward her. Jax aimed, fired, missed. Lyra didn't wait. Her body reacted on instinct. She caught the merc's wrist mid-swing and twisted. Metal screeched. Sparks flew. He screamed. Then silence. 3 bodies lay still. Smoke curled from the walls. The only sound was Lyra's uneven mechanical breathing. Jax lowered his weapon slowly, his heart still hammering. "Remind me not to get on your bad side." Lyra looked down at her new hands, trembling. "They feel heavy," she said softly. "But alive." "Alive's good enough," he replied, stepping closer to check the damage. "You'll get stronger. You just need time." She turned to face him, violet eyes glowing faintly behind the metallic shell. "Do humans always risk death for strangers?" Jax smiled faintly. "Only the interesting ones." Outside, the station alarms began to wail, reinforcements incoming. He grabbed his pack and motioned toward the exit. "Come on, your first steps aren't over yet." Lyra followed, moving steadier now, her mechanical limbs adjusting with every motion. As they slipped into the neon-lit tunnels, smoke still rising behind them, Jax glanced at her silhouette beside him, a fragile miracle wrapped in steel. For the first time, he realized something terrifying and wonderful. He hadn't just built her a body. He had built hope, and hope was something the whole galaxy feared. The rust dancer limped through the dark like a wounded animal, sparks flickering from its tail fins. The bounty hunters were gone, for now, but Jax knew it wouldn't last. Word spread fast across the fringe. 10 million credits could turn friends into ghosts. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat, her new mechanical body humming softly. She looked fragile yet unbreakable, violet eyes glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. "How long until they find us again?" she asked. "Depends," Jax said, fingers tapping controls. "On how good the Baron's tracking team is." "And how good you are," she countered. Jax smirked. "Then we've got a chance." Ahead, a lonely speck appeared on the scanner. A dead moon orbiting a red gas giant. On it, an outpost hidden beneath the dust storms. Jax's old contact, Arden Vox, lived there now. Genius. Hermit. Half-mad inventor. "He'll help us," Jax said. "He owes me from the Juno job." "I hope his gratitude outweighs his sanity," Lyra murmured. The outpost loomed, a rusted ring buried under storms. Landing clamps engaged with a shriek that shook the cabin. Inside, the air smelled of metal and oil. Mechanical limbs and half-built drones hung from the ceiling like sleeping bats. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall man in an exosuit, welding goggles over his eyes. "Jax Wilder," the man said, voice gravelly. "Last time I saw you, you owed me a ship. And I brought you something better." Jax shot back, gesturing toward Lyra. Arden froze. "That's a liminal consciousness in a mech shell." "Temporary," Jax said quickly. "She needs something more. Something alive." The inventor circled her slowly, eyes wide. "This is forbidden tech. Neural hybrids. Half the galaxy bans it." Jax stepped closer. "You once said rules are for the uncreative." Arden grinned, a flash of old madness. "Still true." He looked at Lyra. "If you trust this human, then maybe you'll trust me too. Follow me." He led them down a corridor lined with flickering lights into a chamber glowing soft blue. At its center stood a synthetic body, almost human, almost alien. Its skin shimmered faintly like polished pearl, its chest rising and falling in artificial breath. Lyra gasped. "It looks real." Arden nodded proudly. Biosynthetic integration. Flesh grown from programmable cells. A body that can feel, taste, even dream. Jax's voice dropped. "Can she live in it?" "Maybe," Arden said, adjusting a control pad. "But it needs a quantum resonance core, the stabilizer that keeps consciousness from fracturing during transfer. Without it, her neural pattern would burn out in hours." "Where do we get one?" Jax asked. Arden gave a grim smile. "The Baron's cruiser. He's got several, kept in medical vaults for experiments." Lyra's hands clenched. "So we go back into his shadow." Jax met her gaze. "We've done worse." They spent the night planning. Jax repaired the ship's engines. Lyra practiced her movements, learning the rhythm of her new limbs. Arden calibrated the biosynthetic shell, humming to himself as data streamed across holographic screens. For a brief moment, amid the low hum of machines, the world felt still. Lyra sat on the edge of a workbench, watching Jax tighten bolts. "You humans," she said softly, "you act like failure doesn't exist." Jax looked up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "That's because it doesn't. Not until you stop trying." She smiled faintly. "That's why you frighten them. The other species, I mean. You don't know when to quit." He shrugged. "We didn't crawl out of gravity wells and wars just to give up now." Their eyes met across the workshop's haze. There was something there neither of them dared name. Something dangerous. Something alive. Then the station alarms blared. A holographic warning flashed red across the wall. "Incoming transmission. Baron Varkesh fleet detected." Arden cursed under his breath. He traced the jump signature. "You've got minutes." Jax grabbed his pulse rifle. "We'll get the stabilizer. You keep that body ready." Lyra stood, her mechanical form already humming brighter with power. "Jax, you can't face an entire fleet." "Not facing them," he said, flicking switches. "Stealing from them." Her voice softened. "You always do the impossible." He smiled as the blast doors opened to the storm outside. "That's the job description." As they vanished into the red dust, thunder roaring overhead, Arden turned back to the glowing shell, the promise of life waiting to begin. He whispered to himself, almost reverently, "If they survive this, they'll change everything." Outside, the horizon burned with the light of approaching ships. The war for one woman's freedom and one mechanic's humanity was about to begin. The red storms of the dead moon howled around the Rust Dancer as it lifted into the dust-choked sky. Inside the cockpit, Jax Wilder ran on adrenaline and instinct. Below them, Arden's hidden base disappeared into the storm, leaving only static behind. "Signal jammers online," Jax muttered. "They'll have a hard time tracking us through this mess." In the co-pilot seat, Lyra flexed her mechanical fingers. The alloy frame creaked faintly under stress. "You're still going through with this?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "We need that quantum core," Jax said. "Without it, that new body of yours is just a pretty statue." Lyra's voice softened. "And if the Baron catches you?" He grinned, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Then I improvise. Humans are good at that." Ahead, through the dust clouds, the Baron's cruiser emerged like a black leviathan. A kilometer of steel and hate, its surface bristling with cannons and scanning arrays. It looked alive, like something that wanted to eat smaller ships whole. "Let's sneak into the belly of the beast," Jax said, throttling down. They approached under the cruiser's radar shadow, coasting on silent thrusters. Lyra watched the massive hull through the viewport, her mechanical jaw tightening. "He kept me trapped inside that monster for years," she whispered. "It feels wrong to see it again." "Good," Jax replied. "Use that feeling." They latched onto a maintenance port, one Jax had memorized from stolen schematics, and slipped inside. The air was colder here, humming with the pulse of the ship's reactor. "Stay close," Jax said, drawing his pistol. "We find the medical bay, grab the stabilizer, and get out before anyone notices." Lyra followed quietly, her metal footsteps echoing. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. The ship felt alert, as if it had been waiting for them. They reached the medical deck. Rows of stasis pods lined the walls, trophies, experiments, forgotten lives. Jax found the containment vault and hacked the console. Lines of alien code streamed by until the lock clicked open. Inside, glowing faint blue, was the quantum resonance core, a sphere no larger than an apple, humming with energy that bent light around it. "There it is," Jax whispered, almost reverent. "Worth more than the ship it's on." He reached out, but a voice stopped him cold. "Touch it, and your bones will join my collection." The sound came from everywhere, deep, smooth, and venomous. Jax froze. The air shimmered, and Baron Varkesh stepped through the shadows, scales reflecting the core's glow. "I knew you'd come crawling back, little human," the Baron said. "You always were predictable." Jax's pulse spiked. "Predictable enough to steal from you twice." The Baron smiled, revealing rows of polished teeth. "You misunderstand. I wanted you to come. I wanted her to see what defiance costs." Guards poured into the room. Drones locked their weapons. Lyra moved forward automatically, placing herself between Jax and the Baron. "Still hiding behind humans, princess?" Varkesh sneered. "You were more beautiful in the tank." "Then you'll love this," she said coldly. Her mechanical body surged forward, faster than he expected. Metal fingers struck like lightning, catching a guard's weapon and twisting it midair. Blaster fire filled the room. Jax ducked behind a console, returning shots, covering her advance. "Lyra, we need the core," he shouted. She caught a plasma blast to the shoulder, stumbled, then launched herself at the vault. Sparks rained as she ripped the sphere free, clutching it to her chest. "Got it. Good," Jax yelled, firing one last shot before diving for the exit. "Now run." They sprinted down the corridor, alarms wailing like dying sirens. The ship shook as security doors slammed shut one after another. Lyra turned down a side passage. "This way." "How do you know?" "I remember this place," she said. "Every hallway, every pane." They burst into an escape corridor, the hangar just ahead. But as the doors opened, a plasma net fired across the room, trapping Lyra mid-stride. "Jax," she shouted, body convulsing under the electric surge. He turned back, firing at the net emitters, but there were too many. The Baron stepped forward again, calm, unhurried. "Always the hero," he said. "Always doomed." Jax's hands trembled on the trigger. "Let her go." "Why?" the Baron hissed. She's mine by conquest. Not anymore. Jax hurled a magnetic detonator at the ceiling. The explosion ripped through the conduits, plunging the deck into chaos. Smoke and fire swallowed everything. He reached Lyra, tore through the net with his plasma cutter, and pulled her up. Her systems flickered, sparks dancing along her limbs. "You should have left me," she whispered. "Not an option," he said. "Come on." They staggered into the hangar and leaped into the Rust Dancer just as the deck behind them exploded. Jax slammed the thrusters to full burn. The cruiser loomed behind them, wounded but not dead. Inside the cockpit, Lyra clutched the glowing core. Her voice trembled, half mechanical, half human. "You risked everything for this?" Jax looked at her, breathing hard. Soot streaked across his face. "Not for this," he said. "For you." She fell silent, staring at the small sphere in her hands, the thing that could finally make her whole. As the Rust Dancer vanished into hyperspace, she whispered, "Then I'll make sure it was worth it." And outside, far behind them, the Baron's ship turned its sensors toward the stars, following the fading trail of the only human who'd ever stolen his prize twice. The chase wasn't over. It had only just begun. The Rust Dancer tore through hyperspace like a burning comet, its hull groaning under stress. Inside, sparks danced across the cockpit as systems flickered and alarms howled. Jax Wilder didn't flinch. His eyes were fixed on the small metal sphere pulsing in Lyra's trembling hands, the quantum resonance core. They had what they needed, but they were out of time. "Engines are dying," Jax muttered, flipping switches that no longer responded. "We'll make one jump, maybe two. Then make it count," Lyra said softly. Her mechanical body was scorched and cracked from the fight aboard the Baron's cruiser. Faint smoke rose from her shoulder joint, but her voice was steady. "Take us to Arden. It's time." Jax hesitated. "Once this starts, there's no turning back. You understand that, right?" She met his eyes, violet and unblinking. "I've been trapped in a tank for years. The only thing I don't understand is hesitation." He smiled faintly. "Then let's finish this." The ship blinked out of hyperspace and dropped into the red dust storms of the dead moon once more. Lightning streaked across the horizon as they descended toward Arden's hidden base. The inventor was already waiting outside, surrounded by drones and glowing instruments. "You actually pulled it off," Arden said as the hatch opened. "You insane, beautiful fool." Jax handed him the core. "Let's make history." Inside the lab, the biosynthetic body awaited, motionless on a crystalline table, its skin shimmering faintly under the sterile light. It looked eerily human, yet unearthly. Perfect symmetry, breathless stillness. Lyra stared at it, silent. "Do you like it?" Jax asked quietly. She didn't answer for a long moment. "It feels strange, seeing what I once was, and what I might be again." Arden began the transfer sequence, connecting cables from her mechanical form to the new body. The core floated between them, emitting a low hum that vibrated through the walls. "This will hurt," Arden warned. "Your mind will be suspended between systems. You might not come back." Lyra looked at Jax. "If I don't, promise me you'll destroy the Baron." "Not a chance," he said. "We do that together." She smiled faintly. "Then I'll hold you to it." The light flared. Her mechanical body convulsed as streams of data, thought, and memory poured into the biosynthetic shell. The quantum core pulsed faster, spinning until it glowed like a newborn star. For a terrible moment, everything went still. Then the body on the table breathed. Jax stepped forward, heart pounding. Her new eyes fluttered open, the same twilight color, but deeper, alive with emotion. "Lyra," he whispered. She blinked slowly, focusing on him. "I can feel." Her hand trembled as she lifted it, touching her own face. "Warmth. Air. You." He laughed in relief, pulling her into an embrace. "Welcome back." Their reunion was brief. The lab's alarms erupted, red lights flashing across every screen. Arden cursed. "He's here." The Baron's fleet dropped out of hyperspace, right above us. Jax's smile faded. "Then let's end this." Moments later, the Baron's flagship blotted out the sky, its engines rumbling like thunder. Dropships fell toward the base in waves of fire. Lyra stepped forward, barefoot on the metal floor, still getting used to the weight of life. Energy shimmered across her skin, faint arcs of blue light. Arden's eyes widened. "Your bioelectric field, it's amplifying through the quantum lattice." Lyra didn't look away from the sky. Then let's put it to use. She raised her hands. Lightning erupted outward, streaking up into the storm. The sky answered. Bolts of raw energy crashed down upon the descending ships, tearing them apart midair. Jax stared, awestruck. You're alive, she finished softly. Truly alive. The flagship landed hard, shaking the ground. From its ramp emerged Baron Varkesh, armor gleaming, rage boiling in his scaled eyes. You think this ends here? He roared. You are my creation, liminal. My possession. Lyra stepped forward, power crackling around her. You made the mistake of teaching me how to hate my cage. Jax drew his blaster, standing beside her. And teaching humans what happens when you hurt someone they care about. The Baron lunged with a guttural roar. Lyra met him head-on, their collision shattering the deck. Sparks and lightning filled the air. He struck with brute force. She answered with pure will. Her energy flared brighter, her eyes burning white. Your time is over, she said. She placed her hand against his chest. The air screamed with light. The Baron's armor split, his body turning to ash beneath the surge. When the glow faded, only silence remained. The storm passed. The sky cleared. Jax found Lyra kneeling amid the ruins, her hair glowing faintly in the moonlight. He approached slowly. You did it. We did, she corrected, smiling through exhaustion. You gave me more than a body, Jax. You gave me a choice. He knelt beside her, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. What will you do now? She looked up at the stars. Live. Feel. See Earth. Maybe learn what it means to be human. Jax chuckled softly. You might not like it. Then I'll change it, she said simply. He laughed again, then took her hand. It was warm, soft, alive, and real. Together, they turned toward the horizon where the first light of dawn cut through the clouds. Somewhere above, in the wreckage of the Baron's cruiser, a silent beacon blinked once, recording everything. Someone, somewhere, was watching. Lyra felt it, faint as a whisper in her mind. They'll come for us again. Jax squeezed her hand. Then we'll be ready. She smiled, eyes shining with new life. Together. And as the storm clouds broke, two figures, one human, one reborn, walked into the sunrise, their footprints the first of a new beginning.